Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Klingman and I am going to start reading you guys one of my favorite books ever. It's called Charlotte's Web. The author of this book is E.B. White. And we're just going to get started because I love this book. Charlotte's Web. Chapter 1, Before Breakfast. Where's Papa going with that axe? Said Fern to her mother as they were setting the table for breakfast. Out to the hog house, replied Mrs. Arbell. Some pigs were born last night. Well, I don't see why he needs an axe, continued Fern, who was only 8. Well, said her mother, one of the pigs is a runt. It's very small and weak, and it will never amount to anything, so your father has decided to do away with it. Do away with it? Shrieked Fern. You mean kill it just because it's smaller than the others? Mrs. Arbell put her picture of cream on the table. Don't yell, Fern, she said. Your father is right. The pig would probably die anyway. Fern pushed a chair out of the way and ran outdoors. The grass was wet and the earth smelled of springtime. Fern's sneakers were sopping by the time she caught up with her father. Please don't kill it, she sobbed. It's unfair. Mr. Arbell stopped walking. Here's a picture. Fern, he said gently, you will have to learn to control yourself. Control myself? Yelled Fern. This is a matter of life and death, and how can you talk about controlling myself? And tears ran down her cheeks as she took a hold of the axe and tried to pull it out of her father's hands. Fern, said Mr. Arbell, I know more about raising a litter of pigs than you do, and a weakling makes trouble. Now, run along. But it's unfair, cried Fern. The pig couldn't help being born small, could it? If I had been born very small, would you have killed me? And Mr. Arbell smiled. Certainly not, he said, looking down at his daughter with love. But this is different. A little girl is one thing, and a little runty pig is another. Well, I see no difference, replied Fern, still hanging on to the axe. This is the most terrible case of injustice I ever heard of. And a funny look came over John Arabell's face. He seemed almost ready to cry himself. All right, he said, you go back to the house, and I will bring the runt when I come in. I'll let you start it on a bottle, just like a baby. Then you'll see what trouble a pig can be. When Mr. Arbell returned to the house half an hour later, he carried a carton underneath his arms. Fern was upstairs changing her sneakers. The kitchen table was set for breakfast, and the room smelled of coffee, bacon, and damp plaster and wood smoke from the stove. Put it on the chair, said Mrs. Arbell. Mr. Arbell put the carton down at Fern's place. Then he walked to the sink and he washed his hands and he dried them on the roller towel. Fern came slowly down the stairs. Her eyes were red from crying. As she approached the chair, the carton wobbled and there was a scratching noise. Fern looked at her father. Then she lifted the lid of the carton, and there inside, looking up at her, was the newborn pig. It was a white one, and the morning light shone through its ears, turning them pink. He's yours, said Mr. Arbell, saved from an untimely death, and may the good Lord forgive me for this foolishness. Fern couldn't take her eyes off of the tiny pig. Oh, she whispered, oh, look at him. He's absolutely perfect. She decided to close the carton carefully. First, she kissed her father, and then she kissed her mother. Then she opened the lid again and lifted the pig out and held it against her cheek. And at that moment, her brother Avery came into the room. Avery was 10. He was heavily armed, on an air rifle in one hand and a wooden dagger in the other. Hey, what's that? He demanded. Well, what's Fern got? She's got a guest for breakfast, said Mrs. Arbell. Wash your hands and face, Avery. Well, let's see it, said Avery, setting his gun down. You call that miserable thing a pig? That's a fine specimen of a pig. It's no bigger than a rat. Here's a picture of Avery. Wash up and eat your breakfast, Avery, said his mother. The school bus will be coming along in about a half an hour. Can I have a pig too, Pop? Asked Avery. No, I only distribute pigs to early risers, said Mr. Arbell. Fern was up at daylight trying to rid the world of injustice, and as a result, she now has a pig. A small one, to be sure, but nonetheless, a pig. It just shows what can happen if a person gets out of bed promptly. Now let's eat. But Fern couldn't eat until her pig had a drink of milk. Mrs. Arbell found a baby's nursing bottle and a rubber nipple. She poured warm milk into the bottle, and she fitted the nipple over the top, and she handed it to Fern. Give him his breakfast, she said. There's a picture of Fern. A minute later, Fern was seated on the floor in the corner of the kitchen with her infant between her knees, teaching it to suck from the bottle. The pig, although tiny, had a good appetite, and he caught on quickly. The school bus honked from the road. Run, commanded Mrs. Arbell, taking the pig from Fern and slipping a donut into her hand. Avery grabbed his gun and another donut. The children ran out to the bus and climbed onto the bus. Fern took no notice of the others in the bus. She just sat and stared out the window, thinking what a blissful world it was and how lucky she was to have entire charge of a pig. By the time the bus reached school, Fern had a name for her pet, selecting the most beautiful name she could think of. Its name is Wilbur, she whispered to herself. She was still thinking about the pig when the teacher said, Fern, what's the capital of Pennsylvania? Wilbur, replied Fern dreamily. The pupils all giggled and Fern blushed. Friends, that is the end of our first chapter. What I always do at the end of reading is I tell you the name of the second chapter, and then because we're not finished with this chapter book, we say all together, done, done, done. And that's what we're gonna practice doing right now. Are you guys ready? Clear your voice. All right, friends, we're done reading today, and tomorrow we'll read the next chapter. Chapter 2 is called Wilbur. And you guys all say, done, done, done. All right, guys, have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.